Hello, everyone. So, in response of the agreement among Ukraine's allies that it's really preposterous to forbid Ukraine to defend itself, Putin said, "Well, oh yeah, because he's like that. So what if I put weapons in your neighboring countries to strike America?" Dude, have you seen the map lately? No, I want to know. Yes, America has enemies. No question about it. But where does he propose to put weapons to target the United States that's close enough? Mexico? Canada? Cuba? Where are you going to put those, dude? Also, don't forget that America does have military presence in its own state of Alaska, which is just across a very short distance away from Russia. So I'm just saying. And this kind of rhetoric has been pretty typical. Honestly, I can't remember the last time we had a week or even a day without somebody from Russia saying that we're just going to bomb everybody out of existence. And I'm sure that the world's governments, and particularly military and intelligence services, are having to balance out their reaction to this. Because on one hand, the dude is nuts enough to push the little red button. On the other hand, at this point, everybody's so sick and tired of him that the surrounding countries have been beefing up their defenses. And of course, US has the biggest military complex in the world. So I would be interested to hear some military experts with experience and with knowledge of history and politics say something on the subject, because I'm sure there are some people in the United States who are gonna start freaking out, demanding that we stop helping Ukraine because Russia is gonna bomb the shit out of us. So I think somebody needs to get out there, or several somebodies would be nice, and just talk about realistically what we're looking at here. Meanwhile, the ripple effect from the war continues spreading throughout the world. Over the last few weeks, I repeatedly talked about Africa. Why? Because they had a parliamentary election coming up, specifically in the Republic of South Africa, and there was some question about the power play. What is going to happen to the parliament? Who is going to lead? Well, people went to the polls and the results were surprising. So, going back a little bit, initially, African nations talked about being neutral, but we already knew they were not neutral. South Africa being one of the examples. We knew that there were dictatorships in Africa supported by Russia's militant group Wagner. We knew there was racket. We knew there were a lot of favors exchanged. We knew there was terror, and so on and so forth. So, the neutrality was strictly on paper. And one of the examples was that South Africa was one of the ones who appealed to the International Criminal Court not to enforce the arrest warrant against Putin. Well, fast forward to this year's election, and the African National Congress, which was in the majority since 1990s, so almost 30 years, got a big surprise. Because for the first time in this entire time, they fell short of the 50% threshold in the parliament. That is huge. If you go back and read, there were a lot of analysts and historians talking about African National Congress and speculating about what would happen during the elections. Well, that is what happened. People decided they didn't trust them anymore. That was one of the reasons that they cited. Now, while the stance with respect to Russia was not exactly at the top of the issues, something else did come up, that the attitude of South African people toward the invasion of Ukraine was not at all what its government was presenting. Particularly, apparently they've been broadly opposed to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There have been multiple surveys across the races, across the general population, and the results are not at all favorable with respect to Russia. The article specifically cites this survey. You can pop over and look that up, read it separately so that you could see all of the responses, all of the data. And around 74% of ANC's voters agreed that Russian invasion was an act of aggression that must be condemned. So, I am not expecting an instant change when it comes to the relationship between African nations in general, South Africa specifically, and Russia. But this is a very good sign. I'm hoping that this is one of the supports that is going to get kicked out from under Russia. And that is a positive development for Ukraine. Meanwhile, leaders including Biden and Zelensky are attending the D-Day events. For Zelensky, of course, it is also another opportunity to seek help for Ukraine. Just as a reminder, this is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and I strongly suggest, folks, that you read about the history of D-Day, how it was brought about. I think one of the reasons, it's one of the most remarkable points in World War II, other than being one of the big turning points, one of the crucial battles, is that this was truly a joint effort. Yes, Americans feature very prominently in this, but truly, everyone pitched in. Pieces of intelligence were delivered from all over. The British contributed some. Folks from different European countries delivered some. French underground movement was absolutely crucial. So I think that is what distinguishes D-Day in a lot of ways. And when President Biden made his speech today, he did bring that up. And he did compare to, what is going on in the World War II to the war in Ukraine and the necessity to really pull together in the face of a common enemy. By the way, the moron who suggested that both the war in Ukraine and the World War II was started by Joe Biden, you're an idiot. Now, before I show you this next segment that I'm going to wrap up with, I'm warning you, you're going to see disturbing images. I will also put that warning in the title for this video. This is the state in which some of the POWs were returned to Ukraine after having been captured and kept in Russia. Once again, another parallel with World War II. The Coordination Headquarters for the Treatment of Prisoners of War talked about the treatment of prisoners resembling Nazi Germany, Nazi concentration camps. Yet another reason to stop Russia in its tracks. This is what it does to people.